Somebody's asking me why am I so stupid. I've been asking myself that for years.
Yes, hell yes. Mr. Red Gaze, I'm a big fan. I've been watching all your videos. It's an honor to share tonight with the Gaze community.
I know a lot of folks are here, like I've been reading, to throw the virtual tomatoes. And I can't say I blame you for that. I know that there's a lot of anger out there. I mean, obviously, I've been looking at the comments. I've been looking at the Twitter and all that stuff, and there's a lot of anger out there, and rightfully so. Change such as this is very difficult. Anger for perhaps, or definitely, now that the proof is in the pudding, making wrong decisions about these shows, about not finding ways to make them viable. Let's just maybe talk a little bit about the past. About how this all got started. And as a lot of folks here know, when I was the head of video at Complex, we purchased Collider from Stephen Weintraub, and as part of that Collider purchase, we also acquired AMC Movie Talk, that was led by John Campia, and that was my first introduction to it, and I was very, very impressed with John and what John was able to build. I remember one of the first times I ever met John, he told me that he wanted to build the ESPN of movie news. And I think he did exactly that, and I was very, very, very impressed with that. He's still doing it, and he still has the ESPN of movie news, and he's still great at that, Then through my time here at Collider in the early days, Christian Harloff was a freelancer, and we brought him on full time. If John was the ESPN of movie news, Christian was the Howard Stern of movie news, and he's friggin' awesome at that. With Christian, we were trying to find, how do we differentiate ourselves? How do we still talk about the things that we all love: movies, television, fandom, Star Wars, Marvel, all that cool stuff. But how do we make it unique? Because John had started a trend. We were faced with the decision of how do we start something new, and Christian, came up with Collider Live. And Collider Live was a wildly differentiated product. The Howard Stern of movies versus the ESPN of movies. And he did a great job with that, and he's still doing a great job with that at SEN Live. Like, I watch both of them, and sometimes I'll comment. Everybody wants me to talk about Jack, so you know what? I'll stop then. I'll talk about Jack. So first of all, Jack Hind is not my number two. He is somebody who works here. We employ over 30 people. He works here. He made an extremely insensitive and idiotic comment. That I know he feels bad for. Now, my disciplinary action towards Jack is my personal business.
Say what?
First, before we get into sort of free-form convo, maybe I'll just address the staff situation very, very specifically. So we had to make some changes, and these weren't changes that were taken lightly. And we had to let go of some full-time staff, okay? And I feel it necessary to bring up the staff, the full-time staff that we let go, because 3 of these people are incredible people. And it's not about you let somebody that's super talented go and you kept somebody that's complete crap. It's not about that. It's about knowing what the trajectory of the company is and knowing what things we want to focus in on and what things we just can no longer support. They call it so Mark Riley, full-time staff that we've let go, and I feel very confident that Mark and our story isn't over.
Gay!
The other full-time staffer that we let go was John Roca, and my story with John hopefully isn't over either.
I was a gay man trapped in a straight body.
That supports experimentation. Another full-time staffer that we let go is somebody that you guys don't know very well, but he's one of the most beautiful, talented, funny people that I've ever met in my life. Adam Smith was the technical director here at Collider on Movie Talk, on Jedi Council, on Heroes. And Adam Smith technically directed every single episode that you guys love so much from Movie Talk, even the ones that weren't getting the views. But the ones that weren't getting the views still had the same effort as the ones that did. And it was Adam Smith. Adam Smith was part of John Campia's original team, with Dennis Zen. And he's a beautiful, beautiful person. And, I feel awful about the situation with Adam. But the reality is that the way that I'm going forward in terms of content creation, a technical director behind the switcher is not something that I require on the day-to-day. So those were the full-time staff that we that unfortunately were let go because of the cancellation of the core programming: Movie Talk, Jedi Council, Heroes, Collider Live, Rule of Two, Collider Sports, that kind of stuff. I'm seeing a lot of questions here on the chat saying, why didn't you give the folks 2 weeks? And it's a very fair question. Now, the reality is that when you're an at-will employee, you don't get notice when you let go, right? I'm not trying to justify an action that I did. I'm just saying that when I acted in this manner, I tried to act as honorably as I possibly could. It's me who has to bear the burden of all this stuff. Like, think about it. Like, you guys might think I'm callous or this or that. Like, I lived with this stuff for years, funding it, watching it, tuning in the morning to Roxy and Christian doing their thing. So let's talk about our freelance hosts, some incredibly wonderful people. And I'll start with Roxy Stryer. There's a lot of stuff to get through. Coy Jandro, Coy. And, Coy, no longer hosting Collider Heroes, but still hosting Comic Book Shopping. Amy Dallin. Amy, I'll be honest, I don't know Amy as well as I've gotten to know Coy because of Comic Book Shopping. But Amy is one of the most, wonderful people you've ever talked to. Ken Knapsack, Knapsack, who was a co-host with Christian on Jedi Council, somebody that Christian brought in. And then when I asked him to take over the job, did it with such great enthusiasm. And that's when he brought in Emma Fife and Ace Cabrera as freelance hosts to come work with him on that show. Emma's great, and I've just, sadly, I only got to work with Emma for a little bit. But, when we did the Mandalorian premiere and it was late night, it was cold, and we needed somebody to do the red carpet, Emma was like, of course I'll do it, and somebody who's a consummate professional. Ace Cabrera, Ace and RB3 do the Meaning Of podcast here at the studio, and they come in here at night, I open my doors to them, they do it, I let them use my studio. It's not even on my channel, but I let them use my studio because that's how much I believe in Ace and RB3. I mean, these are special, talented young people. And if I can't support them with dollars, then I'll support them with facility. I'll support them with whatever I can, whatever my resources allow, So
what a fucking hero.
these are the freelance hosts that we had to let go. And I apologize if I went a little too deep. What we were doing, both in our two biggest shows, in Movie Talk and Collider Live, were really the brainchild of other people that are still doing it. And frankly, we're doing it more effectively than us, with John and his show and Christian and his show. And these are wonderful shows, and I encourage you to support both of them. But, for us to compete in that space directly at them just wasn't smart anymore. And I tried, man. Trust me, I tried. I tried probably a lot longer than I should have. The competition in the specific lane that Movie Talk, Jedi Council, Heroes, Collider Live, Rule of Two, and these shows were living in became difficult for me to compete in, because there's also, like I said earlier, John started something and started a big trend in the industry, and there's so much competition in it that you guys have a lot of choices in your fandom of who you want to listen to. So even though I know we have extremely devoted fans that are very angry right now, those devoted fans wasn't enough to sustain the financial realities behind the scenes to keep a show like that going. And because like the work that we make is made with love, whether or not it's what you want or what you expect, the people internally, it's okay that you guys are angry, and that anger should be directed at me because I'm the one who made the decision. And look, you guys do what you want, and this is the beauty of a free media society, that we're all allowed equal voice in the comment section, and go for it. And if you're looking for the stuff that we used to do with Movie Talk and Collider Live, there's so many options for you out there, like I've talked about with John and Christian and et cetera, but what we want to bring to the table is something different, and is everything going to work? No, everything's not going to work. And you can't be angry at me for trying. Oh, you can be, but it's not a healthy way to think about your own creative ambition, to be afraid to try new things and be afraid to fail in new things. In the media world, when you're trying to develop content for distribution, you got to play to your strengths, and that's what we're trying to do. Talking about some of the new shows that you can count on very, very short. In the short term, comic book shopping, we're lining up a bunch of guests to do that with Coy. I absolutely love that show. Ladies Night, a great show that you guys aren't watching so much, but it's a Perry show, and she sits down with some of the most powerful women in our industry, and I highly suggest you check that out. The Witching Hour. The Witching Hour with Haley and Perry will be on the podcast channel. The Snyder Cut. The great, Jeff Snyder has his own podcast. You guys will be seeing video of that. I'm also actually pretty excited to announce that we're introducing some other folks. Like I said, there's a lot of folks that want to just be around and use my studio and make their shows. And for the record, if you have a podcast and you're serious about that, send it over. I'm as open as a can of paint to this stuff, but I do want to talk about a little bit, just very quickly, about Geek History Lesson with Jason Inman and Ashley V. Robinson are going to be part of the podcast network. They're going to come in here. Again, I'm going to let them use the studio, distribute their wonderful content, let them bring us their amazing knowledge that they have, and maybe one day we'll even find out what show Jason is working on right now, because he still won't tell me, even though he says I'll be very happy about it. And look, that's pretty much it. I'm gonna go over to the questions here, and I'm gonna just answer questions. Okay, so there's a question about why I didn't do the goodbye episodes, and that's a very good question. And that was my decision. I didn't want to create a lot of prolonged goodbyes. I didn't want the goodbye episodes. Was that a right decision? I don't know. Maybe it was the wrong decision, but it was my decision. So that's that question. Who else? I'm just looking at the questions here. I'm not seeing a ton of questions. I'm just seeing a lot of stuff. I'll give 5 more minutes for questions if you folks want. So I addressed the idiotic comments made by Jack Hind earlier in the show, and like I said again, It does not represent whatsoever what anybody else in here feels. And discipline will be handled in that situation internally. It's not something I'm going to discuss publicly about what the consequences of that are. Sure. Somebody's saying, do I honestly want advice on how I right this ship? I mean, the reality is that we're actually doing extremely well in a lot of our other sides of the business, and I'm very, very proud of that. And that's only because there's so many people that still work here that devote their entire life to the job. Yes, FYC will be carrying on because, again, we are unique. That's a unique offering that Collider can give you guys that you can't get in every other or in all the other people that are doing it better than us, right? Like FYC is very unique to us. Scott Mance, Perry Nemiroff, Jeff Snyder, these are titans in the industry, and we'll be bringing you a lot more of that stuff. Okay, that's Steve B is asking a very interesting question. What classifies a successful show? That's a very, very, very good question. Successful shows are defined by consumption. I am the Senate.
I am the Senate.
If you can find a way to be objective about the content, great. If you can't, that's your choice. You know, I can only try to be, you know, I've tried to be fairly, you know, honest and open about all this stuff. You know, I'm looking at the questions here. It's hard to see questions in the mix of all in the mix of all this other kind of, you know, go F yourself stuff. But anyway, thank you very much. And we're still here, and we're going to be around, and we're going to keep pushing.
Oh God! Oh, here it comes! Oh, it's over.